Today's plan was to make a card with a foam flower on. It was to make a card with some numbers on, do a bit of inking, and after that I didn't know where I was going. And this is where I've ended up. I've made some paper rolls, I've done some splatting, like I said, I've done some inking, a little bit of torn paper, loving my foam flower. Always remember you can keep scrunching and adjusting and changing it as much as you want. And this is the card I have made. I'm going to talk you through how I made it. I'm going to talk you through what I'm going to use it for, because it's quite a random number, 31 and happy anniversary, but it's going to be perfect for what I need. Yeah. Please watch the video and I'll show you how it was made. I really do enjoy making cards with foam flowers on, so I thought I'd have a go at another one, and I'd also incorporate some other little bits that I enjoy doing. So I've cut a piece of multi-purpose cardstock to 5.5 inches square, and I've done that because the next layer is going to be just a little bit bigger. If I bring that in so that you can see it, it's just fractionally bigger, because you know I like to do white on white, and I've been able to get both of those out of a single sheet of A4. Or you could get it out of one sheet of letter size if you're in the US. So I just thought that's why I've gone for that. Now this is a pre-bought card base. It is if you buy a pack of 7-inch cards and envelopes, this is what you'll get in it. It's actually 6 3/4 by 6 3/4 because the envelope is 7 inches. So that's what I've done. Now I've just put on a piece of decorative paper. You don't see me do those that much these days, but I thought I would for this one. And then onto there, I'm going to pop a white layer, and then I've got some pink. Now I cut out the centre of the pink, there it is, because this is a really nice pink and I wanted to be able to use that in other projects. So I'm going to pop that on there, and then I can just be putting those to dry, so bear with me. There you go. I've done that just with my regular book binding glue, so that's going to hold nicely on there. If you want to just give it a little bit of a press, I've got my stamp pressing tool, which you've seen me use lots of times, just to smooth that glue out. And then all I'm going to do is grab a stamping platform, put that over the top, and then I'm just going to put it to one side and put some weight on it so that it can be doing. So I'm going to bring this back in now. So this is my topper, and I'm going to just pop it onto a craft sheet, and I've got some masking tape. This is my Alton New masking tape, so I'm going to just use this. I'm just going to put it, give myself a white border around the outside. I don't know what's that, I don't know how big that is. About 1 centimetre, which is, what's that in inches? It is, it's just fractionally under 1/2 inch. So it's going to be just over 1 centimetre, isn't it? I'm just going to do roughly the same size. Now, this masking tape's really good, so you'll be able to pull it off and use it again on other projects. Now, if you want to measure, you can measure. This is just to give me a bit of a white border around the outside, so it doesn't matter if it's not exactly the same, but it's just so that it's roughly the same. To do a rough white border. There we go. So that's going to protect that. I'm giving it a press, but I'm not pressing too hard because it's brilliant masking tape, but we're not going to ask it to do anything more than it really has to. I've found a couple of stencils. I don't know where my favourite stencil is. Couldn't find it, so we're going to go with these, but that's fine. So I've got some dots, and I'm going to come in with some green, and I've also got my frosted sea glass, and I think both of these really perfectly match that paper that you saw. Can you remember that paper that I've just put on the backing? I think these two colours match really well. So I'm going to go with a little bit of the pink tulip, and we're going to just come across here. Oh, I can see that straight away coming through. It'll always look paler when you're doing it at first, so don't be worried that it's not going to show. Even that bit, look, I love that. So I've done really light in the middle. Most of that middle is going to be covered up, so I'm not overly concerned. I've got my frosted glass. I've got 1,000,001 doorbell handles, so let's put a new one on each one. It makes life easier. Pick some of that up. And then I'm going to come in with the honeycomb, and I'm just going to do it this way around. Just remember, it always comes out a lot darker than it might look through the stencil. Let's pull that back. Oh, that's perfect. Brought through those two colours absolutely beautifully. So I'm just going to leave it there. Am I going to do anything else? I could do a few little splats, but do I want to do a couple of splats? Let's have a look, see if I can find some inks that are the right colours. Right, I've got pickled raspberry and cracked pistachio. I think these two will actually look quite nice on it. So let's just do it. I'm not going to do a lot. Just going to go along with the pistachio, sort of where the pink is, like that. Now, you know, I don't spray my my oxide sprays just because I can't control it enough. You get more than I would like, so we can just put that like that, and let's just give that a bit of time to dry off while we make our flower. Okay, so let's make a foam flower. So I've got a piece of foam, and I should have a metal die. Yes, I do. So it's just found a really simple floral shape. So all I'm going to do is I've just cut a strip of foam 3 inches wide, because as we all know, a lot of our mini die cutting machines are 3 inches wide, and I've just folded it into 3. I think 3 is a lovely number to do layers to do on flowers. So I'm going to get my smallest die cutting machine. I'm going to pop this through here, and then I'm just going to pop that through there. Now we're going to keep the colours working their way through the project. There we go. Cut through 3 layers without any problem. Most of these dies will cut through 6 layers of foam. Yeah, it really isn't a problem. 1, 2, 3. So I've got my 3 flowers, and I'm going to bring back the pink tulip, because as you know, that's the colour we used for the background. So if we use it on the flower, it's going to work really, really well. Now, if you followed me for a while, you will know that when I make 3-dimensional flowers, I always like to put ink on the back as well, because that then means that when I make it 3-dimensional, I don't end up with a white bit on the back showing, you know, when you change them. So I'm just going around quickly with the dauber, but I'm actually going to go over it again in a minute with just a little blending brush. But I'm just trying to lay down. Every material takes ink differently, and sometimes it can be quite hard to transfer the ink to foam. It depends. Some transfer quick, easily. It's a case of trial and error. But you'll see, as I always say, don't spend a lot of time worrying about the application of the ink. We're going to be shaping these flowers, and when we shape them, we're going to be putting on a lot of detail, and it'll blend the ink. So I mentioned about my little blending brushes. I will link to these. Did I do both sides of that? Yes. Really cheap ones from Amazon. I think they're actually makeup brushes, but they work really well for this. So all I'm doing is I'm putting a little bit of the, what's it called, frosted sea glass. But if you've got Tim Holtz, you'll be going like something that crack pistachio, was it? Yes, crack pistachio, but you've got that in an ink, so something like that. Then you know your colours are all going the same. I don't have Tim Holtz distress inks. I tend to use the ones that I had from when I was working, and we just try and make the best fit. But you'll know when they made all these, they were trying to match up the colours to Tim Holtz. So yeah, you'll probably find that they match pretty well. There we go. I'm just going over a little bit more with a little bit more ink, just on there, because like I say, we're going to blend. Now you don't have to put the green in the centre of them all, because really it's the top one. I sometimes do the top 1 or 2, and that's enough. Now, glue for foam is really important. There are a lot of glues that will work, and I know your things like, oh, I haven't got any out now, your silicone glue, not your silicone glue, what am I thinking? Like your all-purpose glue, they will work, but if you've shaped them, they're not going to dry quickly enough to hold the shape. They're going to work perfectly if you've got flat flowers. If you've got shape like I'm doing now, then you will find that you need something like a hot glue. That's going to be the best thing for you. You see, I'm not adding any heat. If you need to add heat to soften your foam, then go for it. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to get that, and I'm just going to add a little bit more on here. And have you ever done tie-dye? This is the effect you're going to get on here, because we've twisted it, and then when we add ink, we're just getting the ink where it can go. You know, where it's folded up, it won't go. So you get a lovely sort of, that sort of tie-dye effect. That's why I often add a little bit of extra ink. So I'm going to open these out. It's so quick to make, and put it like that. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to just stretch the petal near the base. I'm not going near the tip where I've done the shaping. If at any point I think it needs a bit more shape, I'll put my thumb and finger over, and then I add a bit more shape like that and a bit more dimension. Just keep opening it out near the base of the petal. And remember, you can reshape foam as many times as you want. You'll soon learn as well about the amount of pressure you can put on. I have ripped petals so many times, but again, a little bit of hot glue will glue them back together, and they look more natural then as well. So don't be panicking about ripped petals as well. So there we go. And again, they don't look much while they're flat, but we're going to change that. And hot glue is one of the best mediums for helping you to shape your foam. Foam is heat reactive, and we're going to use a hot foam, so it's going to be perfect. So this time now, I'm going to bring in my mat. I'm going to find one of my petals, any one of my petals. I'm going to get some hot glue, and I'm just going to put a small amount of hot glue in the middle. Now, I don't know how many times I've tried to tell people it is less is more when it comes to glue. So I'm just pressing that down to hold it so that it can't move. And then I'm going to put another little bit of glue in, and I'm going to get my third one, and I'm going to pop it in the middle again, just like that. And I'm pressing lightly so it doesn't move. Then I'm going to grab a ball tool. I'm going to start with a larger ball tool, and I'm pressing to flatten that glue and to start those petals to come up. I'm going to go with a smaller ball tool and just hold that, really press into the mat. Now sometimes you might find a more squidgy mat will help, because your foam will really come up around your ball tool, and again, that heat is helping. So that is set. That's not going anywhere now, because that glue has dried around there. I'm going to get my pokey tool, and I'm going to pop it through the centre and make a nice hole. I'm just going to leave that for a minute. Then I've got some stamens. So I've managed to find some stamens in a really nice green that goes really well. And I'm going to grab a good half dozen, maybe 8. And then I've got a piece of floristry wire. So let's level all these up, because I want them roughly level. They don't have to be perfectly level, because it'll look more natural. But let's have them starting roughly in the same place. They're not quite right just yet. There we go, we're just leveling them up. So once we've got those fairly level, we're going to get some floristry wire. We're going to twist it around. I don't need all that floristry wire. I can use a bit of that for later. I'm going to twist it round. So it's in roughly the centre at the moment. Twist it round, and then find the centre and put it like that. I can take the poker tool out, and then I can poke this through here. Now, it depends how big a hole you've managed to make as to how easy it's going to go through. Let's see. Oh, these have gone through nice easy. If you struggle, just put your tweezers around the wire and give it a good pull. And then all I want to do, hold that, again, roughly in the shape you want it to be. Get your hot glue, and then come round there. And we're just going to hold in that string. And then we just need to leave that to dry. Now, in good Corrine style, I've made one already. So here's one where the glue is dry, and all I'm going to do is take this, I'm going to go right up to the glue, and I'm going to cut it off like that. And that is my flower. So as soon as that one's dry, I can do that, and I've got a couple. Aren't they absolutely gorgeous? Really pretty. So let's put those to one side. Let's hope I don't lose them again. Okay, so we need to finish off getting this card ready. Let's move out the bits out of the way I don't need. So what have I got so far? I've got my card base, you can see on here. Now, if your card sort of ripples a little bit from the glue, that's because that was a thinner card on there, but it will straighten as it dries. Then I've got my next layer, which is a white that you saw. that little piece in the middle was just because I cut off the foam and I had a little bit left over. When you do something like that, you don't actually need to take the backing off that. That's just there for support. I will, but if you can't be bothered, you actually don't need to take the backing off all of your foam. We then come in with our PVA, and we put a little bit of PVA down each one, just like that. There we are. I'm going to take that, double check my card the right way up, and then I can pop that onto here. Now that's not quite right. Let's lift that up. Just wants to go up a little bit. And I can move it because of putting that PVA on. Let's just check. There we go, that going like that. Now I need to bring back my card topper. So let's take this now. As I said, just where the sprays have landed on the masking tape, it will definitely take longer to dry, if at all, because it's like non-porous. So just be careful you don't smudge any bits. As I said, this is one of the best masking tapes I've come across. It's the Ultra New masking silk or satin. Might be satin, I can never remember. I should remember, but I never do. Now what I love about this is I've done this so it just sort of blends away to nothing because of doing putting that round the edge, and that's just what I wanted to see, just like that. So let's pop that onto the card. So that's going on flat on top of that foam. I'm going to be very careful, and I've ruined cards before because of this, because I'm doing this, filming this in real time, and that hasn't really had time to dry. My glue has just been a bit of a pain. Right, I've opened up the nozzle maybe a little bit too much, but at least the glue's coming out now. There we go, and I can pop that. I can see a wet bit there, so I'm being very careful. I can put that on here like that, avoiding the wet so that we don't smudge. Is that even? I think it is. There we go. So that's going to sit. Aren't those colours beautiful? I love, I've got the pink and I've got the tealy colour, and they reflect in there. That is just perfect. Okay, so now we need to put the rest of the card together. So I've got something I wanted to show you. I've made these little like straw reels, and I made them out of the backing paper. And all I've done is I've taken a piece of card. Takes a little bit of time to do this, so I'm not going to do it all, but basically you just need to, this is card, so it's harder. If you've got paper, it's going to be a lot easier. I just need to break the fibres up a bit. So I'm just breaking up, just rolling it a little bit by breaking up the fibres. And I find that do things like get my tweezers. You just have to manipulate it for a couple of minutes to get those fibres breaking up. I do have a quilling tool here, and I will be using that, but like I say, this is cardstock, not paper. Perhaps that's what I probably need to try and find, but I wanted to make these out of the same paper as the background. So once I've started to roll it, I'm just going to keep giving it a little bit of a roll. Like I say, I'm just rolling it up. You can tell I've never smoked cigarettes or roll your own, because I would know what I was doing, wouldn't I? So just keep rolling it, breaking up those fibres, pulling it back so it goes a little bit tighter, and then I'm going to go again. There we are. Right, once I've got it to quite tight but not tight, I'm going to get my quilling tool. So your quilling tool has, I don't know if you can see on here, it has a gap down there. It splits open. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that gap through there. So it's like a sort of pair of tweezers. And then I'm going to roll round. Now, because it's card, if I'd have tried to do that from the beginning, it would have probably have ripped. So I'm just going to hold that on that end. Come on this end, slide that on, and then roll it. See, that's starting to rip. Come on, roll round. And once I've got it thin enough and tight enough, all I then need to do is put a little bit of glue. Now remember, things like your bookbinding glue is really strong and grabs really quickly. And then I roll it to there. Don't worry about the glue. It's better to have the glue right to the end to capture that. Just keep rolling like that. And then all I do is I get my little sewing clips. Don't worry if it's squashing it a little bit. And I put those on like that. Now that's quite a chunky one. These ones are a lot finer. And they're going to go on my card. At the moment, I'm not sure about the size, but we'll get there in a minute. And so is my flower. Look at that. Isn't that pretty colours? Oh, I'm really loving this. Now, the other thing I did was I got my numbers die. Now, I could break all these up, but I don't want to break them up. So what I do is I'm going to put that one behind the 3. Got a piece of tape. I need another piece of card. I'm going to put behind the 1. Let's cut a piece off. Oh. I'm going to put that behind the 1, just like that. Now, you could just put a piece of card and run it through and cut them all out. But I thought I wouldn't. I would just cut out the ones I want. Put it into my MIDI plates. Just move that out of the way. Grab my... Oops. And drop everything. Sorry about the bang. And the dog didn't like that. She's always in here with me when I'm recording it. You usually hear her. Don't we, Elsie? Yeah. And then we can roll that. Any of you that followed me for a while will have seen pictures of her. She doesn't like bangs and noises. Right, and that's going to go across here, which isn't very good at this time of year when there's lots of fireworks going off. Right, there we are. That one hasn't cut very well. Normally this die cuts really well. There's the 1. And... well, no, there's the 3. Now I've already cut them out 3 times and I've stuck these together to make them a bit chipboard-esque, and I'm going to stick this one on, so they're going to be 4 layers deep, so they're going to really, I can really use them as substantial shapes then. So because they're die cut, they just clip one on top of another, which is absolutely brilliant, and any bits of glue will just wipe off. Just oops, bending it like that. They just fit together perfectly. Now if you wanted to ink them, you could. I don't. I want them nice and white. And then a little bit of glue on the number 1. There's method in this madness for this. I shall show you why in a minute. You can do whatever numbers. This could be, you know, you can make numbers for children's cards, men's cards, adult cards, whatever you wanted, male, female, they'll work however. So there we go, I've got 31. Now the other thing I have done, I was going to do some stamping on that and I haven't, it's too late. I've just looked in my scrap box and I found some white little bits of foliage and a little bit of brick. You've seen these on recent projects, very recent projects very recently, yeah. And then I've also got the sheet. This isn't real sheet music, this is decorative paper to look like sheet music, and I've just teared out a couple of pieces because I don't know which piece I want to use yet. And we're going to assemble now because I think we've got everything that we need. So let's bring this in, and I think I don't know which way to order to do this in. Let's start with some of these. Pop some of these onto here. Now I don't know how big I want these, but what I might do is cut a couple in half. These have been drying for a while, so they cut quite nicely. Put some like that. So I might just go, I'll do it over this side. So I'm going to put one here. I think I'll do that. I've got my hot glue going, but I might get my 3D glue as well. Pull out the little stopper. Yeah, that's going. And then I'm going to put up a little bit just there. I always make sure that the seam's down. Just like that. Let's go. I don't want them at the same height. I'm just going to make this one a little bit shorter. Otherwise it's going to be hard to not make it the same height. Put that one just there. The great thing is I can change them around. I'm going to just drop one down a little bit lower. And I might leave it now until I've got the flower on. Right, okay. So where am I going now? I don't know. I don't know. Let's just lay... No, I'm going to put my flower on next. So as I said, I'm going to use hot glue for this. So let's do a nice little puddle of hot glue. I don't tend to like to use hot glue too much because once it's on, you can't move things. But it does work well for foam flowers. That's pretty, isn't it? That's looking pretty. Okay, so I might trim into this and cut a couple of bits off. So I'm really, like I say, this was just a scrap. So I'm going to grab a little scrap of this. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here, and I'm going to just, that cut side, I'm going to tuck it into there. So you can really make the most of your scraps. Right now that shows me where I can put some more of these. So I might put that one there. So it's like staggered. Put a little bit of glue here, and then I want them all at sort of different heights, different widths. That means then I can then put this one on. Just like that. And I might go with one more, of these. Gosh, you use a lot more of these than I thought I would. There, let's do that. Put the glue on that side and then pop it down there. Then I thought I would, so let's have a look. I was going to tuck some of this in as well. This is far too big. Let's trim a little bit of this off. And then this can be coming out of here as well. I've got to work out where I'm going to put my 31. This is nothing like the design I had in my head. Nothing like at all. Let's come down here. Right, I'm going to take that off and put that at the bottom like that, so that this can then stand proud. Now I've got happy anniversary, because this card is going to be for my anniversary, which actually isn't until December, but I was trying to think of some numbers. I was trying to think what you're doing, and I end up making 18s and all the rest of it, and then they just sit in my drawer because I don't actually know anybody with a number birthday. So I thought, right, today I'm going to make one. It's very organised, very organised for my anniversary, which, like I say, is December, but it means it's done, and it shows you, it demonstrates numbers, and it shows you, it makes a pretty card. And then when it comes to my anniversary and I haven't got, gets close to the date, and I've got a card ready. Now, can you see this is really lifted? Oh, I want to make sure you can definitely see it. Really lifted it up. I could have used foam tape. Could have used foam tape. And that would work really well too. But if you wanted to use foam tape, I would have needed to cut it to shape. That one has slipped, that top one. That's a bit disappointing, but never mind. So there we go. So there's my 3 and the 1. My anniversary is on. So all I need to do now is just put a couple of bits of foliage in. And I thought white foliage would look really nice because it's going to be on top of colours. So it will really stand out. And like I say, these are just bits that I had left over in my scrap box from projects that you've seen me make recently. And I just love to do that, you know, really use up some of those bits. I just don't know, I ended up with 2 of those. This is so pretty, isn't it? And then I'm going to use that one, and that'll do. It's a bit symmetrical, which I always talk about not doing, but I think it's going to work. So yes, this year, hubby and I will have been married for 31 years. Wow. Doesn't sound too long if you say it quickly. No, I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change a minute of it. I really wouldn't. Right, so there we are, nearly there. The last thing I wanted to do was I wanted to just grab that masking tape. Now, I didn't want to do this until the card was assembled, but I want to control where it goes. So I've got my masking tape. I'm just going to lightly put my masking tape very lightly back on. It really is lightly, just like that. Now, I often wonder if putting a black sentiment on is too harsh, but I think it works. Like I said, I was going to run, do a couple of little bit of random stamps, but actually I think it's enough. So I'm going to pop that in the box. I've got my bleed proof white, which you've seen me use lots of times. And I'm going to do that by wetting a brush. I've got a brush. This is the brush I use all the time. It's a little bit hard. Wet the brush. I think this works the best. Pick some up because you see it's a little bit more loose in the middle because that's where I've been working from. And then I'm just going to do a few taps. I'd quite like them to go all over, including the flower, maybe the sentiment. You don't have to do this. It's just something I wanted to do. There we go. It's coming on a little bit. Come on. Why does it always go everywhere but where you want it to? I think that'll do. That will do, otherwise I'll be here all day. Let's get that one up. Now, this is where I'm going to have to be really, really careful. Let's do it while it's still in the box. Obviously, ideally, I would leave that to dry. And there we go. Peeling that off very carefully. Again, you can still be able to use this masking tape again if you wanted to. Now, is that one actually attached? I think it is. And that is my card. Isn't that gorgeous? I am so pleased with that. And we've not used anything really substantial. So we can, if you need to bring in your flower, scrunch it up a little bit. I love how it's got little bits of white on. Isn't that gorgeous? I am really chuffed with that. I wasn't sure how it's going to be. That isn't the design I saw in my head, but I think it works. It's all right. I've not attached this properly. Let's just get that bit tucked in. Gonna have to be careful because of the wet glue. Come on, you. Tuck in. There, that's better. That's better. There. I'm going to stop fiddling. Corrine, you need to stop. And that is where I'm going to leave it. It really needs to dry. It's got little bits of wet on, but I think that is gorgeous. I hope you like that. I'd love to know what you think of that. Are there any techniques that you like to use? Any that you would incorporate, or, you know, do you make your own foam flowers? Have you ever made these sort of little paper rolls? Would you put the white around the edge, or would you have inked to the edge? I don't know. I'd love to know what you think. Okay, as always, there's going to be a link on the left and my subscribe button will be on the right. Down at the bottom will be links and the description, and I'd love you to click on that and interact. It's really, really would be fantastic. And I will leave it there until next time. So please enjoy your crafting. Please make sure you share your makes with me, and please don't forget to leave me a comment and let me know what you think. And until next time, my crafty friends, I'm going to leave you, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye for now.